Hey man, what are you getting ready to do?
Pulling this little piece of metal out of my finger.
That's not what I was looking for. What are you getting ready to do?
Wash this side by side.
But why are we gonna? You gotta speak up, man. You gotta get so close to your face to hear you. Why we gotta wash it?
Because we're going to the lake to
No. We gotta wash it because we're getting ready to do what to it?
change the oil.
For the first time, we gotta change all the fluids. All right, so first service on the Rmax. So I got a really good relationship with my local Yamaha dealer. Been buying from him since I was in middle school. And I called him, I said, hey, does it matter if I use Yamaha filter and Yamaha oil if something happens during my warranty period? He said, no. He said, don't sweat it. He said, the main thing they're wanting to see is you use a motor, the correct weight, and a motorcycle or side-by-side oil and a quality filter. So we're going with the Wix 51358, the Lucas 1040 semi-synthetic. The next change, I will go full synthetic after this. And for the gear oil and the transmission, we're going with the synthetic 7590 gear oil. I know it's supposed to be 8090, but we're doing 7590 gear oil. So I'm going to do that because I can get it all from my local O'Reilly's dealer that I have an account with. The oil change was $40 cheaper going this route, and I think the gear oil was about 20 bucks cheaper doing both diffs than going with the Yamaha stuff. So that's what we're putting back in it. Never done this before, never claimed to have done it. But first things first, you got to take these plugs off this little cover right here so you can get access to your oil fill. Pull all your little plugs out. Raise this up. You probably should already know this, but I'm telling you anyways. There's your oil fill. And right there is where you check your oil. So we're going to take this out, set it right over here to the side. We're going to raise this up on the lift and get ready to start draining stuff. So I rigged up my funnel right there. It's hanging on that smaller line right below there, so it'll drain right into our oil catch. But you got a 10 millimeter right here, and we did run the machine to get the oil warm before we did this, but that's 10 millimeter. I'm gonna pull that out. We're gonna drain that first. So it's working good. That oil looks pretty. I mean, I know it ain't got much on it. I know it's just break-in, but I mean, that's still pretty damn clean. Brand
new. Motor is brand new.
All right, so we're gonna let this drain, and then I'm gonna move over to the next one. Your next two drain points are right here, side by side, 12 millimeters there and there. So I'm gonna pull both of those, let those drain. And this is, we're on the passenger side right here. There's the back, come right over to the oval. And they're right there. All right, both those are draining, and they were extremely tight. And I didn't mention earlier, but everything that we are undoing has crush washers on it, which one of these stayed up there, as you can see, which I reuse crush washers a lot of times, and I really don't think there's anything wrong with reusing it. Probably every several oil changes you should probably change them. I'm not changing them this time, but I'm also just going to keep an eye on them, make sure they're fine. All right, your last point to drain. This is the driver's side front right here. So come over to right here on this oval. You got two drains on your oil lines. They're 8 millimeters. So I'm gonna pull both of those and let those drain now. All right, we're gonna let those drain. I'm letting everything drain that I've opened until it ain't even dripping no more. I just wanna make sure we get all of it out. It's break-in oil, and I'm also swapping oil brands, not weights, but oil brands. So I'm gonna let it all drain until ain't nothing coming out no more. So one thing I will add real quick is Yamaha did do a good job with the cutouts and the skid plate and everything for not making a mess doing this. Like sometimes you were thinking, why in the hell did they put this right here? Because I'm getting oil all over everything. I haven't got oil on anything, and the only thing that I did have to do was use that red funnel on draining the reservoir back here. That's the only thing you had to do, and that's not asking a whole lot there, I don't think. So they did do a pretty good job on leaving you good access ports for all of these. Another thing I will add is that I noticed when I opened these, I went on and put this other pan under here just because it was dripping. But when I opened these lines, this went back to just a steady stream for about 4 or 5 seconds and got a significant amount of oil out of it being open. So I'm glad I did that. I don't know if it's creating a vacuum in the system or what, or if it allowed more oil to drain back through the lines. But either way, I did get some more oil out of this upon opening these lines. So just take that as food for thought. All right, the next thing we gotta do is access our oil filter, which there's 1, 2, 3, and 4 10 millimeter bolts that we gotta remove, take this cover off. So I'm gonna do that real quick. And there is also a little push tab right here. It's got a straight slot in it. You can reach your finger around the back and push on it. It makes it come out a little bit easier. So back that out. Then you can pop your cover off of here. Get the rest of the push tab and then take your cover off. All right, there's your oil filter. I got it broke loose. I do not have an oil filter wrench that is that small. So that may be something if you want to have one, order one before you do this. I just used a channel locks. So anyways, I'm gonna spin that off and we'll put the new one on. All right, we got our new Wix filter ready to go on. There's the part number 51358. And as you can see, it is a little bit taller than the Yamaha filter, which I like. It's got a little more filter material then. And I did pre-fill it just slightly. I want about the same amount as what was left in this one when I took it out because it didn't spill any when I took it off. So I pre-filled it that amount and we're gonna spin it back on. And don't forget to verify that your O-ring came off with your old filter and that you lubricate your new O-ring. All right, so on the top of your cylinder head and your oil fill here, you're gonna put 1.5 liters or basically a quart and a half because a quart is 946 milliliters. So roughly just a quart and a half or 1.5 liters as I mentioned. So I'm gonna fill that up and then we'll fill our oil tank after that. All right, so your oil tank calls for 2.65 liters. If you did a full change like we did with the filter, that's basically 2.5 quarts. So I'm gonna put the remainder of the half quart I have left over from over there and 2 other full quarts in there because we're gonna crank the machine up and run it and double check our oil level anyways, and if we have to top off any, then we will then. All right, we're filled with oil. We're gonna crank it up, let it run for just a second, turn it off, let it sit for a minute, and then double check our oil level. All right, we've let our oil level settle now. I'm gonna recheck. All right, so my initial check on the oil, it was just on the very bottom of the dipstick. I added an additional 1/4 of a quart, and that put it just right at the very top of the hashes on the dipstick. And that was after me. I topped it off twice. I didn't want to overfill it, so I put about 1/8 of a quart in, cranked it up, ran it, waited 2 or 3 minutes, checked it. It was still not exactly at the top where I wanted it. Put the other 1/8 of a quart, which equaled another additional 1/4 of a quart, like I said, and made it just right. So you need 4 1/4 quarts to change the oil on this basically to get it just right. All right, now that we got our oil change knocked out, we're gonna do our transmission fluid service now. So this is where we did our oil here. You come right in front of it. The next round circle is where you're gonna drain your transmission fluid. That's a 12 millimeter, so I'm gonna pop that off. We're gonna let it start draining. There we go, that is draining. Wonderful smell of gear oil. All right, so fill in the transmission. Just gonna pick up on your seat. We're gonna move that out of the way. You have a little access door right here. We're gonna flip that up. And here's your dipstick right here. That's also where we're filling right now. We got us a small funnel. This is basically a quart and a half. I think it's 1.47 liters is what they say. But what I have done is I have one brand new full quart. I have it open. I took one of my empty engine oil bottles and I filled it right up to a half. So we're gonna put both of those in and then we're gonna check it. I know that is probably gonna be hard to see, but we are right there at the top of the hash mark with 1.5 quarts. So that's just right. All right, now that we've finished up on our transmission, we're gonna go on and start with the front diff and drain that. You have a 6 millimeter Allen right here in the front in this round circle. I'm using a socket Allen. So I'm gonna loosen that up. We're gonna let that drain. We're gonna let this drain till it slows up enough to move that other pan over here to it. And then I'll go to the back. We'll go on and drain the rear, let them both drain for a while, and then be ready to fill them up. And then we can wrap up our service with hitting a couple of grease points. And I'm gonna show you something that I'm gonna do because of a main complaint with the rear axles talking about clicking and stuff. All right, while the front diff continues dripping slowly, we're gonna go on and open the rear diff up and drain it. Same size as the front, only difference it comes in at a 90-degree angle here. So got just enough room to fit the ratchet in here, so I'm gonna bust this loose and drain it. All right, we're draining out at the back. We're gonna let it continue to drain and drip. Once it finishes, we'll put all our plugs in and then we'll lower it down a little bit and fill both the front and rear diff. So both of these plugs do have a crush washer on them also, so just make sure you don't lose them while you're doing this. I'm reusing these also. Not saying that's the right or wrong thing to do, but just keep in mind, don't lose them. So your oil fill on the front is this 21 millimeter right here. And the combination I'm using is a 12-inch extension and a 21 standard depth socket and a 1/2-inch extension. To get the same size plug on the back, I'll show that one when I remove it. All right, so what I came up with for doing this mess-free, because you can't get the bottle up there to fill that, is this is just a piece of air line, and I heat it up with my heat gun, and I pushed it on the top of the oil fill bottle. It's a nice tight fit, so it's not gonna leak around that. You can stick it in the hole and squeeze it, so I just gotta finish topping it off now. What you do is you fill it until it starts oozing out of the hole, and then you put your plug in. It's that simple. Then we're gonna go to the back here in just a second and do the same thing. All right, so we got our bottle up here, our hose coming down, and we're just filling up until it oozes out here. So there we go, you can see it just started oozing out, and we are full, and I got a quart to do the front and rear diff both. All right, so another part of your service should be is these 4 grease fittings on the back. You have one on the bottom on each side, and you have one right there on the top of each side, and grease those up really good. Yamaha got smart on this, made these way easier to access than they were on the old Rhinos. Don't ask me how I know. So now you're just gonna pump it up until you see the grease come out. And of course, my grease fitting is leaking on my grease gun, letting some grease out. All right, so the last thing we're gonna do with our service here, since we've just finished these grease fittings, is that I have read and I have heard everyone talk about these rear axles, or all the axles on here rather. The grease in them is not very good grease, and there's not enough of it to begin with. And these rear ones are exposed to all the heat from this exhaust. That's one reason why I'm running the full synthetic gear oil in the rear end also. And so what I'm gonna do, I know some people remove the clamps or pull the axles out and repack grease in it, but my idea was I'm gonna use this needle fitting here, and I'm gonna stick it into the boot here, just in one spot. And I'm gonna use the rest of this tube of grease and all these axle joints here on the back. Mainly the top two is what my main concern is, because they're the ones that are exposed to so much heat up here. So I'm gonna poke it in, and I'm gonna pump and pump, and I figured adding better grease to it is better than leaving it the way it is. So that's what we're gonna try doing. We're gonna see how long that lasts, and my idea is just to try to keep these axles lasting as long as I can before I have to replace them for the first time. So let me stick this needle in here, and I'll show y'all, I guess I'll show you where I put the needle in, basically, and we're just gonna pump it up with grease. All right, so I went and did all the joints on the rear. I put 40 pumps in both upper ones, and I did 30 pumps in the lower ones because I want to try to make my grease last to spread that all out. So that's a pretty significant amount of grease, because what you see sticking out there is about the amount of grease you get with a pump. So that ought to be some good grease in there, and maybe the next time I service it again, or here in a little while, I may put it in there and give it a few more pumps, figuring that maybe that all spread around and work its way into the CV joints there. So I think I'm gonna go on and do this on the front axles also. That is such a tiny, minuscule hole. We don't ride in a whole bunch of mud and a whole bunch of water. We do mostly dry trail riding, and what water we do go through is not but maybe a foot deep. I'm not exposing this to a whole bunch of water and stuff typically. So I'm gonna go on and grease the front ones up, and hopefully make these axles last a long time. All right, so the last thing we're gonna do and check is check the air filter. I've already checked it twice since we own this, and you can't even tell that it's been used. So let me pop this hood off. So we are nowhere near the service interval for this, but I like just knowing that something is good to go. And as you can see, that thing still looks like it did the day we picked it up. So we're gonna say that is good to go. All right, guys, so in a nutshell, that is doing your first service on your Rmax, or just servicing all the fluids on it to begin with right there. Like I said, the only thing we really didn't do was we didn't mess with the coolant, of course, and we didn't change or clean the air filter because it's not even due yet and it's still clean. So not too bad, just a bunch of drain points for the oil and stuff like that. I thought the transmission was easy. I thought they did a good job of the drain points and oil not getting all over everything. The only thing that was remotely messy was the rear diff. Only because it's at a right angle versus being on the bottom. Not a big deal. But anyways, we're enjoying the Rmax. Excited about riding coming up soon, and putting some more miles on this thing, and it's a lot of fun and a big upgrade for us. So y'all go check out other content on our channel here. There'll be a lot more coming with this. We got a whole lot of Power Stroke, Ford, Cummins, all kind of stuff on the channel here. So go check that content out. Go check out our Patreon. Don't forget to follow us and check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Rumble also. This is Automatic Garage signing out, and we'll holler at y'all later.